Good afternoon. I am Master Sergeant Rouser from the Air Force's Personnel Center's Director of Personnel Programs.
And I am Senior Airman Ariana Reed from the Air Force Personnel Service Directorate of Personnel Support. We will serve as your briefers today. We will be covering a lot of information, so we ask that you hold all of your questions until the end of this briefing. Today, information and guidance will be provided on the Air Force Enlisted program, your roles and responsibilities as a customer. We will then interpret the myPers retraining advisory along with the advisory notes. We will provide a demonstration on how to navigate through the Air Force Enlisted Classification Directory. Afterwards, we will cover some frequently asked questions, then finally open up this forum for additional questions you may have. In accordance with Air Force Instruction 36-2626, the overall objective of the Air Force Retraining Program is a force management program used primarily to balance the enlisted career force across all Air Force specialty codes and ensure sustainability of career fields. It is an opportunity to return disqualified airmen to a productive status. And lastly, it is an opportunity to allow a limited number of airmen to pursue other career paths within the Air Force. Let's now discuss this year's FTA retraining program objectives.
The First Term Airman Retraining Program is designed to retrain airmen that are serving during their first enlistment, including staff and technical sergeants serving their first enlistment. This program allows airmen to retrain into skills where shortages exist. If a first-term airman is retraining eligible in accordance with AFI 362626 Airman Retraining Program and meets the AFECD specialty qualifications outlined in the Air Force Enlisted Classification Directory, he or she may apply to retrain into one of the open quotas found in the FTA column of the myPers online retraining advisory. For example, in this illustration, the 1 Alpha 0X1 career field manager is in need of 2 additional first-term airmen to join their career field, whereas the 1 Alpha 2X1 career field manager is not in need of any first-term airmen to join their career field at this time. Let's move on to your FTA retraining window. As a FTA, if interested in retraining, you must do so within your retraining window. Stateside assigned airmen apply between their 35th and 43rd month of their current enlistment. 6-year enlistees may apply between their 59th and 67th month of their current enlistment. Eligible overseas assigned first-term airmen may apply 9 to 15 months prior to your DEROs. However, if that window is outside the current fiscal year, your application will be regarded as ineligible. For example, for the upcoming fiscal year, we only have the capability to load retraining class seats that start from 1 October 2019 through 30 September 2020. If your 9 to 15 month DEROs eligibility window puts you on or after 1 October 2020, that falls outside of fiscal year 20. Your retraining application will be closed due to non-availability of class seats within the current fiscal year. Let's move on now to discuss your options to seek retraining before your window opens.
First-term airmen in a Shortfall AFSC now have an opportunity to apply for the retraining into other Shortfall requirements, AFSCs, so long as a quota exists. The myPers article displayed has been updated with the new initiative and can be found on the Retraining myPers homepage. These airmen must be within their retraining window in order to apply. You are highly encouraged to obtain additional counseling from your base career assistant advisor before choosing this option. Headquarters AFPC hosts the First-Term Airman Board for selection of retraining on or about the last duty day of every month. Applications will be approved and disapproved no later than the 15th of the following month. Applications are selected based on the quality indicators shown here, for example. top EPR rating, if there is an EPR on file, current grade, projected grade, next to EPR ratings, if applicable, date of rank, total active federal military service date, aptitude qualification examination score, in the applicable area, electrical, mechanical, administrative, general, and lastly, requested AFSC preferences. The FTA retraining applications will meet a maximum of 3 boards, 1 per month. Each month, the same selection is performed. Applications not selected for approval will remain in a pending status until the next month, for a maximum of 3 months. You will receive an automated message through your Open Retraining myPers incident each time your application has met the board. Once you have met your 3rd board and have not been selected to retrain, you are no longer considered eligible to apply for retraining as an FTA. Your next opportunity to retrain will be as a 2nd-term airman after you have re-enlisted. Let's now cover your roles and responsibilities as the customer. These roles of engagement should be followed to ensure your retraining application is processed quickly.
The next few slides cover rules of engagement. We ask that you pay close attention. Following these ROEs will greatly aid in the processing of your retraining application error-free. Step 1, are you eligible? Prior to submitting a retraining application, you must first determine if you are eligible to retrain at this point in your career. This is a list of factors that are automatic disqualifiers for retraining. Input of any of these disqualifying factors automatically render you ineligible to retrain. Please note, even if selected and approved to retrain, input of any of these disqualifying factors before your class start date will result in cancellation. We also use the criteria outlined in Table 4.1 in determining specific eligibility. For example, if when you click on the Request for Retraining link and receive this message, you are not eligible to retrain. One of these assignment action codes are updated on your record in MilPDS that are rendering you not eligible for promotion, reenlistment, retraining, or all 3. There is not a need to call the Total Force Service Center to ask why you are not eligible. Simply log on to your virtual MPF. Under Self-Service Actions, click on Retraining. As you can see here, the reenlistment code and assignment availability code is clear text for you. In this example, this customer is pending status with the Medical or Physical Evaluation Board, rendering this customer ineligible to apply for retraining at this time. If this information displayed is not correct, provide the appropriate supporting documents to your local military personnel flight for correction. Let's move on to Step 2, reading the online retraining advisory.
Step 2. Review the online myPers retraining advisory and advisory notes. The retraining advisory is the primary means to advertise retraining requirements by fiscal year. The advisory advertises 2 types of requirements: out quotas, AFSCs where the Air Force has determined an overage may exist, and in quotas, AFSCs where the Air Force has determined shortages may exist. Use these AFSCs and numbers of quotas to determine your preferences when applying for retraining. This is how the retraining advisory appears on myPers. Displayed here is a screenshot of AFSCs listing out quotas. Please note, retraining out quotas do not apply to first-term airmen. Retraining out quotas are for second-term airmen use only. Retraining in quotas identify AFSCs where the Air Force has determined shortages may temporarily exist. You will use the AFSCs to determine your preferences when applying for retraining. Retraining in quotas apply to all ranks listed. For example, in this illustration, On row 2, the career field manager of 1 Alpha 111 is in need of 34 first-term airmen. On row 4, the career field manager for 1 Charlie 211 is in need of 3 first-term airmen. The retraining advisory notes are co-located with the retraining advisory and provide specific guidelines and special or unique requirements for each AFSC. Applicants must review the retraining advisory notes for quotas prior to submitting an application. Applicants must check these notes closely to avoid delays in the application process. When you click on the note number, the definition will appear in the yellow box. For example, in the 1 Alpha 111, Career Field Manager has requested Advisory Note 114, which reads, Feeder AFSCs may be waived by exception through Air Force 8301. Contact DSN 227-2820.
Step 3. The last step and final step is to review the Air Force Enlisted Classification Directory, located also on myPers. Here you will review AFSC specialty descriptions. This will help you in making your final selection of which AFSC to retrain into. Simply type AFECD in the search area. You will then be directed to the Enlisted Classification Directory link. The Enlisted Classification Directory is posted twice a year, October and April. Ensure you click on the most current directory link.
Once you have the directory open, clicking the bookmark option is the best way to navigate through. If quotas exist to retrain into 1 Alpha 011, here you will click on 1 Alpha to review the entry requirements for this AFSC. The ECD provides the specialty summary, duties and responsibilities, and the specialty qualifications expected for this AFSC. The ECD provides the specialty summary, duties and responsibilities, and the specialty qualifications expected of this AFSC. In paragraph 3.5 of each AFSC, you will find the mandatory entry requirements. In this example, for entry into the 1 Alpha 011 career field, you must be medically and physically qualified for an in-flight refilling. You must have normal depth perception, eligible for worldwide deployment, and cannot be taller than 77 inches or shorter than 64 inches. For this AFSC, you will need to obtain documentation from your local military treatment facility, showing that you are medically and physically qualified to retrain into this AFSC. Now let's check for the last of the 1 Alpha 011 mandatory requirements for this AFSC entry, also located within the ECD inside Attachment 4. Attachment 4 lists all of the minimum requirements for medical, administrative, general, or electronic aptitude scores, strength aptitude codes, and physical profile series, POEs. In this illustration, here you see the minimum requirements for the general aptitude score is 55. Strength aptitude codes are reflected in column X and identify strength standards required for entry into each AFSC. Here the requirement code is X, defined as retraining must lift a weight of 70 pounds. Your POEs must be a minimum of 11121 and must be accurately reflected on your Air Force Form 422.
Now that you have determined your eligibility, confirm that quotas exist, and verify that you meet the specialty qualifications for the AFSC you desire to retrain into, you may click the Apply for Retraining link. Allow us now to cover some frequently asked questions. How do I track my retraining package in myPers? Once you request to retrain, a retraining technician will be assigned to your application. Please allow a minimum of 20 duty days for that technician to review your record to establish eligibility for your requested AFSCs. There is not a need to call the Total Force Service Center for status of your retraining application. To track your application, log on to the myPers website under My Account. Here you will see your request for retraining and the myPers reference number. At all times, you are able to communicate directly with your assigned retraining technician by utilizing this open ticket. Question: I am a first-term airman and I have missed my retraining window. How do I apply to retrain as a first-term airman after my retraining window has closed? FTA may apply for retraining as an exception to policy if the first-term airman was not allowed to apply for retraining during normal retraining window, or if requesting retraining consideration outside of the normal retraining program's eligibility criteria. Exception to policies are only considered in extreme cases, and justification must present unusual circumstances uncommon to other Air Force members. If attempting to prove miscounseling and/or injustice occurred, then the exception to policy request must include a statement from the organization that provided the counseling, endorsed by your respective commander explaining the circumstances. Exception to policies will not be granted based on personal convenience. For example, individuals' indecision, lack of employment, or educational opportunities.
When am I required to obtain retainability for my approved retraining Class C? Once you receive notification of your class start date, within 30 days, you are required to obtain a minimum of 24 months retainability from class graduation date. Please note, some AFSCs awarding course require additional retainability, and you will be annotated as such on your training rep and listed within your student reporting instructions. Where can I find my student instructions? All student instructions are located on the Education and Training course announcements webpage listed here. Your student reporting instructions and mandatory requirements must be met prior to departing for class. Shown here is the Education and Training course announcements website. This site is maintained by Headquarters Air Education and Training Command and is provided on your training rep. Once CAC logged in at this site, click the search tab or type in your new Air Force specialty code at the 3 skill level. In the course ID/number block, here you will type in the retraining AFSC at the 3 skill level. This site will then populate your full course description to include student reporting instructions, special security clearance, and uniform requirements. Again, your student reporting instructions are mandatory requirements that must be met prior to your departure for class. In this example, please note, this is an active duty service commitment of 36 months for this particular course, and all students must have an interim or final security eligibility security clearance updated in the JPAS system prior to departing for this training.
How often is the online myPers retraining advisory updated? Daily. As class seats are being filled, the advisory will reflect such changes. Be sure to always refresh your browser to view the most current version. And remember, only apply for AFSCs where quotas exist, meaning if there is a 0 annotated, there are no more class seats for that particular AFSC. That concludes today's First Term Airman Retraining webcast. Thank you for logging in. Today, we provided you information and guidance on the Air Force Enlisted Retraining Program purpose, an overview of the First Term Airman Retraining Program, your roles and responsibilities as the customer. We interpreted the myPers Retraining Advisory along with the advisory notes. We we provided a demonstration on how to navigate through the Air Force Enlisted Classification Directory. We then covered some frequently asked questions. We will now open up this forum for any additional questions you may have. Please type them in now.
Thank you so much. Even our Facebook Live audience, please type your questions on Facebook Live, and we'll do our best to answer your questions live.
The first question that I'll answer is from Alex Wakenight. Where can I find retraining package requirements? You can find those requirements in the Air Force Enlisted Classification Directory, and you can click on whichever AFSC you're interested in. It'll tell you about the specialty qualifications and what you need to have as far as your ASVAB scores and your POLHEs in order to be able to go into that AFSC. What can consist of a retraining package? A retraining package is the documents that we request that you turn in order for you to be able to be considered for that AFSC. Jose Vasquez, for the fiscal year 20 enlisted RPA pilot board, that's not something that we do specifically in the retraining office. That is done in a different section within AFPC. You can find that information on myPers. Earl Williamson, how does an exception to policy get included into an application? Once you apply for retraining and you're deemed eligible by the technician, you can then upload your documents into your retraining case by going back to your account and clicking on your incident and adding any documents and an exception to policy to your retraining package. John Park, unfortunately, since you have re-enlisted, you will not be considered as a first-term airman. You would need to, if there's no out objectives for your current controlled AFSC, you would need to submit an exception to policy to be released from your current career field. Joseph Mogado from Facebook Live, will your retraining application carry over into fiscal year 20? No, sir, it will not. Curtis Starnes, how long does it take after you submit all your documents to have your package reviewed? We have 5 duty days to review your documents once you turn them all in. And then if your first AFSC that you choose is going to meet the board, then you're loaded into MilPDS to meet the board. And you won't meet the board until the last duty day of that month or the next month, depending on when your application is reviewed. Or if the AFSC that you've chose is going to the CFM for review, your package is sent to the CFM, and then they will review and let us know whether or not you're approved or disapproved. Nicholas Scott, we don't have a definitive date, but they will be released in August.
Okay, last call for questions. We'll give you another maybe 10 seconds. Last call.
Alex Wakenight, how exactly would you start the ETP process? You simply type up a memorandum about why you want to retrain and what your exception is, and then you submit it through your leadership to have your commander sign.
Many thanks for joining us. Have a good day, a good evening.